So this video is for M3 May 2023. So question 1 says Debbie works as a salesperson for an insurance company. Her rate of pay is £11.50. Every time she sells an insurance policy, she receives a bonus of £7.25. Last week, Debbie worked these hours. So it shows you all these hours, and her total pay for the week was £537.25. How many insurance policies did she sell? First of all, you have to find out how many hours she worked. So you would take all these hours and add them up. Next, you know that it's 36 hours at £11.50, as that is her rate of pay. So she earns normally £414. Next step is you take, because her total pay says £537.25, you take away 414. So this gives you how much bonus she has received is 123 in total, 123.25. And with this one, you would divide 123.25 by 7.25, which equals 17. So that means that she has sold 17 insurance policies. So the next question is a table with the number of surveys issued and the number of responses they got. So for online, you can see these number of surveys issued and the number of responses they got for each one. Frank thinks that you're most likely to get a response from surveys issued by text. Is he right? You must show you're working to justify your answer. Now, there's many ways of doing this, but the way I've done it here is basically change everything to percentages. So that just means that 120 for online, it's 120 out of 240 is the fraction, and you multiply that by 100. So that gives you 50%. The post the same, 30 responses out of 100 surveys, and multiply by 100. So this is where you get your percentages from. Now you can compare it. So when we compare it, it says no, because he's asking you if it's most likely to get a response from surveys issued by text, and it's no, because as you can see, face-to-face is a higher percentage, so face-to-face has the highest response. So for question 3a, it says write an expression for the perimeter of the triangle, simplify your answer. So first of all, I've written 2a plus 3 plus b, take away 5 plus 2a plus 3. The reason for that is perimeter is adding all your sides up all around your shape. So 2a plus 3 plus b, take away 5 plus 2a plus 3. When you simplify that or collect your like terms, 2a plus 2a is 4a, b is on its own, and 3 minus 5 plus 3 is equal to 1. And that's what we've got as the answer there. The perimeter of the triangle is 30. So this bit here, 4a plus b plus 1, is the expression for the perimeter. And it tells you the perimeter of the triangle is 30. You're told that b equals 9. Work out the value of a. So we put 4a plus b plus 1 and we equal it to 30. We replace the b with 9, so 4a plus 9 plus 1 equals 30. Add the 9 and 1, so now we've got 4a plus 10 equals 30. We move the 10 across to the other side of the equation. That becomes, instead of a plus, it becomes a minus, so 30 take away 10. So we end up with 4a equals 20. Now we move on to getting rid of the 4, and you can see that when we get rid of the 4, it becomes a divide. So it's a multiplication to begin with, it changes to a division. So 4a equals 20 becomes a equals 20 divided by 4, and 20 divided by 4 is 5, and that's your final answer. So question 4 says a class of 30 pupils chose their favourite drink. 40% chose cola, 3/10 chose milk, 3 chose water, the rest chose other. How many pupils chose other? So what we want to do is just get how many people of each of these chose cola and etc. So like we have 40% of 30, be 40 over 100 times 30 is 12. So 12 chose cola. 3/10 of 30 is 9, so 9 chose milk, and 3 obviously chose water there. Next, we add these values up, 12, 9 and 3, and it's 24, and we know there's 30 pupils, so the rest should be 30 take away 24, which is 6. The next part is use the information to draw a pie chart for the 30 pupils. So we're filling in everything that we know about the frequencies, 12, 9, 3 and 6. So the next part is we add the frequencies up, which then becomes 360 divided by 30 equals 12. Once we've got the 12, then we can multiply it to each of these frequencies here. So once we multiply the frequencies, we've got 144, 108, 36 and 72. A check for this would be add them up, and if they add up to 360, that's a good sign that you have got everything correct, and then you just use a protractor and fill in all the angles in this pie chart. This one is a train timetable, and you can see the train timetable in this table here. So Alex arrives at Edinburgh Airport at 13:06. It takes him 26 minutes to collect his luggage. By taxi, he arrives at Edinburgh train station 18 minutes later. How long will he have to wait at the train station for the next train to St Andrews? So what we're looking at is he arrives at Edinburgh Airport at 13:06 and it takes him 26 minutes to collect his luggage. So we add 26 minutes to this. So now the time is 13:32. So it says by taxi arrives at Edinburgh train station 18 minutes later. So 13:32, we add another 18 minutes and that is now 13:50. And it says how long we have to wait for the train. Wait at the station for the next train to St Andrews. So if we arrived at the Edinburgh train station at 13:50, we look at this one here, 13:50, and the next one is too late for the standard one at 13:43, so he has to wait for the 14:24. So we work out from 13:50 to 14:24, it would be 34 minutes. So that's what the answer is there. He has to wait another 34 minutes for the next train to St Andrews. The distance between Edinburgh and St Andrews is 54 miles. Calculate the average speed at which the express train travels between Edinburgh and St Andrews. So it's a kind of speed, distance and time. So the way, because we're looking for the average speed, it'll be speed equals distance over time. And you can see here the distance is 54 miles, as it says in the question. We'll work out the time there. So the time, it's 45 minutes. It takes from 14:24 to 15:09 would be 45 minutes. So you can see that I've put as a decimal 0.75 hours. The way you can work that out is you can do 45 divided by 60 as there's 60 minutes in an hour. So 45 divided by 60 would give you 0.75 hours. So speed equals distance 54, time is 0.75, and to work out the speed you divide them and it would be 72 miles per hour. So question 6, you can see a net here of a cuboid or a box. So calculate the volume of the box. So volume equals length times width times height. And so you can see there's 45 multiplied by 24 multiplied by 18, so 19,440. So you're just multiplying these three numbers together. For question B, calculate the length of the longest straight line that can be drawn in the base of the box. So the base of the box is this rectangle here, and you can see the diagonal. The longest straight line would be the diagonal on that base. So now we're going to be using Pythagoras because it's a right angle triangle. And you can see this one here, to work out the length of the diagonal, we square these two and add them together. So that would be 2,601, and then we square root that answer, which then becomes 51 centimetres. So question 7 says, Greg bought a mobile phone for 180. A year later, he sold it for 54. What was Greg's percentage loss on the phone? So the first thing you would do, you would find out how much was the loss. So you would do 180, take away 54, and find out that it's 100%, £126 loss. For this one here, you'll put 126, the loss, on the top, and the original goes at the bottom. The original is your first number that you come across, which was 180, their starting value. So 126 divided by 180, and to change this fraction into a percentage, you multiply it by 100. 70% is your answer. Question 8 says, solve the equation. So what we've got here is 4y plus 8 equals 22, because 4 times y is 4y, 4 times 2 is 8. We take the 8 and move it across, it changes from a plus to a minus, so 4y equals 22, take away 8. We tidy that up, so 4y equals 14, and then there's a multiplication here, so when you take 4 and move it across, it changes from multiplication to division, and 14 divided by 4, and when we key that in the calculator, whatever, you'll have y equals 3.5. So question 9, it says a local sports club runs the tuck shop during matches. Before last week's match, the club bought 25 packs, each containing 6 drinks, costing £3 per pack. 15 packs, each containing 12 bags of crisps, costing £2.40 per pack. 35 packs, each containing 5 chocolate bars, costing £1 per pack. Calculate the total cost to the club. Now for this particular thing, you don't really need the 6 drinks, 12 bags of crisps and 5 chocolate bars. All you're thinking about is the total cost to the club. 25 packs at £3 per pack. So if we look at this here, 25 packs at £3 a pack, that just means you multiply these two together. It's the same for the other ones, 15 times £2.40 and 35 multiplied by 1 because it's £1 per pack. We get our total costs for each one, and then we add them up together to get our complete total cost for the club, which is £146. So for question B, it says tuck shop prices. So it's giving you the prices of all the different drinks, crisps, chocolate bars, and they have a special deal there. So 1 drink, 1 bag of crisps and 1 chocolate bar for £1.50. During the match, 115 people bought the special deal. By the end of the match, the tuck shop had sold all the drinks, crisps and chocolate bars. What is the tuck shop's profit for that day? When the question deals with profit, you have to find out the total, how much they've bought and how much they've sold. So to begin with, we find out 115 times £1.50. The 115 comes from the 115 people, and the £1.50 is the 115 people that's bought the special deal. So the special deal was £1.50. So this is why it's 115 times 150. So the total cost of the special deal for everyone buying it would be £172.50. Now the second part of it is, you can see here, is drinks 150 and 35 left, 180, 65 left, and 175, 60 left. The 150 comes from, if we go back to the previous page, you can see 6 drinks and there's 25 packs in these ones. So 6 times 25 is 150. And then you just do 12 bags of crisps is 15, or in these 15 packs, so you do 12 times 15 and 5 times 35. So this is where all these numbers come from: 150, 180 and 175. Now you can see there's 115 of each of these have been sold due to the special deal. So we're taking 115 off of these. So 150, take away 115, we leave you 35. And it's the same for these other two as well. So we've got 35 left of drinks to sell, 65 left of crisps and 60 left of chocolate. So in here it says they're going to be sold individually after the special deal. So you've got drinks at 80 pence each. So we're multiplying 35 multiplied by 80 pence. So it's 35 left. So it's 35 lots of chocolate multiplied by the 80 pence it costs each. And then you have £28. And we do that the same for the crisps and the chocolate. Once we've got all that, we add them up. So it's 28 plus 32.50 plus 18 plus 172.50 due to the special deal, which is 251. So they've made 251 by selling all of these. Now they bought the whole thing for 146. So basically, to find the profit, we're taking those two things away. So 251 take 146 is 105. And that's the £105 profit. Question 10 is parallel lines. So it's telling you the AC and DG are parallel lines. They're basically telling you everything that's on that diagram. So angle CBF is 50, CBF is 50, and BED is 100, so BED. So the middle letter in that is where the angle is. What type of triangle is BEF? So it's asking you for this triangle here within the parallel lines. And you have to give a reason for each one that you find. So the first part of it is we find out what the angles are inside the triangle. So therefore we can find out what type of triangle it is. So angle BFE, so BFE is 50 degrees. So in here would be 50, and that's because these two are alternate. Angle BEF is equal to 180 take away 100 because that's along a straight line. So this one would be 80 degrees. So you can see the angle EBF. So we've got the bottom two angles there on this diagram, and we need the top one. So we have 50 plus 80 is equal to 130. So we're adding the angles inside the triangle here. You can see it there, 50 plus 80 is 130, and we can do 180 take away 130 because in the triangle it adds up to 180. So 180 take away 130 is 50. So we know that two angles in this triangle have 50 degrees. Therefore, when you've got two equal angles like that, the triangle is an isosceles triangle. So question 11 is a Venn diagram. So 40 customers order chips in a takeaway. 6 customers take both salt and vinegar on their chips. You can see it there in the Venn diagram. 6 customers take both salt and vinegar. 10 customers take vinegar only. You can see that's been put here because it's vinegar only. This information on the Venn diagram. 22 customers take salt on their chips. Now what you're doing here is you would have 22 within this salt circle here. If that had said 22 customers take salt only on their chips, that would be 22 instead of 16. But because it says 22 customers take salt on their chips, it is basically the whole circle. So you do 22 take away 6 is 16. So this circle should add up to 22. You can see that there is, we use the Venn diagram to work out how many customers take neither salt nor vinegar on their chips. You just add these three numbers up. It's 32, and you know there's 40 customers. So it'll be 42 take away 40 take away 32, which is 8. So the final answer there is 8. Question 12 deals with stem and leaf diagrams. You can see there's a set of numbers there, 21 numbers. And it says draw a stem and leaf diagram to display this data. So when you draw a stem and leaf diagram, you can see there's 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s and 60s there. So it's 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. These represent 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s and 60s. And you just fill in all of these. So there's a 23 in this list of numbers, another 23, another 26 and so on. This is what's called an ordered stem and leaf diagram because they're in ascending order like this. So start with the smallest and then work to the biggest on each one. The most important thing is to have a key. So if someone is not familiar with this one, at least it gives them an idea of what these mean, because it could easily mean 2.3. But because of the key, it says 2/3 is equal to 23. So it gives you an idea of what this all means. Question B is a new worker joins the office. He is age 34. What effect will this have on the median age? So median is the middle. And what happens is your median will be lowered on this one. Now for question 13, it says Colm wants to put 4,500 into a savings account for 2 years. You can choose one of the following options. The option A is 3.5% compound interest per year for 2 years. And it's asking you what, and the other option is 5% compound interest for year 1 and 2% compound interest for year 2. Which option is better and by how much? So the first thing is you have to do is take one thing at a time. Now there's many different ways of doing this. I could get a formula and put it in and get the answer straight away for this one. Okay, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through step by step on this. Okay. So this one here, we get 3.5% of 4,500. So you can see here is 3.5% is just 3.5 over 100. You key that into a calculator and you would get £157.50. So that's the interest. And you add your interest on. So 4,500 add 157.50. And that is your total for the first year. So you carry forward the first year and you get 3.5% of that again. And that's your interest for the second year and you add on. So this £4,820.51 is actually after 2 years. So the second one, you would get the option B. You get the 5% first, 5% of 4,500, and then you add it on. And that would be after the first year. And then on the question it says 2% compound interest per year. You take the 2% of the new value and you add on. And you get £4,819.50. And to find out by how much you would take them away. So £1.01. So you'll see the final answer is option A is better because it's a higher value and it's better by £1.01. So question 14, it says the graph shows the cost of hiring a mini digger up to 7 days including the delivery charge. And it says use your graph to find the delivery charge. So there's a line that was going through here. You can see here the delivery charge is a one-off payment. So the one-off payment is where the line starts on this y-axis. You can see here it starts at £50 because this one represents pounds. £50 is the delivery charge. Next part of the question says they're asking you for the gradient of the line. So if we go back to this one here, the gradient of the line is you pick 2 points, so it's rise over run. So the 2 points I've picked to make sure they're easy to read. So it's 2 and 200, and that's what I've taken is 0 and 50. So rise, draw a right angle triangle. Your rise is going to go up from 50 right up to 200, which is 150. The run is basically going from 0 to 2, which is 2. So if we go back to this one, this question here, you can see rise over run is 150 divided by 2, which is 75. And that is basically your final answer. And what does the gradient represent when hiring the mini digger? It just means it costs £75 per day. You can see it's a cost per day when they deal with gradient there. So question 15, it says expand and simplify. So expand just means to expand the brackets there. So you can see here I've multiplied 2y times 3y is 6y squared. 2y times minus 7 is minus 14y, and we have minus 8y on its own outside the bracket. We collect our like terms, so there's no other y squared terms, so 6y squared stays the same, and it's minus 14y, take away 8. So minus 14 take away 8 is minus 22, and that is your final answer. Question 16 says a circle of diameter 12 centimeters just fits inside a semicircle as shown. Show that the shaded area and unshaded area are exactly the same. You must show all your work clearly. So the first thing you want to do is to get the area of the circle. You can see the radius of that little shaded area is 6 centimeters. So we use area equals pi r squared. So it's pi times 6 squared, and we have 113.093355, which is the area of the shaded circle. Second part around, we find out what the area is of the big shape or the semicircle. So we've got the area is pi r squared divided by 2. Because it's a semicircle, it's a half circle. So if you see a semicircle, you always divide the area by 2. And you have pi times 12 squared. You can see the 12 would be the radius of the semicircle. Okay, 12 is the radius of the semicircle. So pi times 12 squared divided by 2, and you should get 226.1946711. Okay, so the next part is we have to take the big shape, take away the small shape, and this will give us our unshaded area. So we take those two numbers away and we should have 113.097. You can see it's basically the same as the area of this circle. So this is the unshaded part and this is the shaded bit. You can see it's basically the same. So question 17 says the times which members are at a gym spend on a treadmill are recorded in the table, and it's asking you to estimate the mean time spent on the treadmill. So when it says estimate the mean and you've got a table like this, you find the midpoint of this. You want to have numbers that you can multiply with. So you have to find the middle between 0 and 15, 15 and 30, 30 and 45, and 45 and 60. So the middle value of 0 to 15 is 7.5. Now, if you feel as if you're a bit unsure what the middle value is, you just add the two outside values. So for instance, this second one, you'll say 15 and 30, you add these two, which is 45, and divide by 2, and you'll get 22.5. That will be your middle value. And you do the same for every single one, and then you multiply across. So 8 times 7.5 is 60. So usually this column here is called the FX column, but basically all that means is you multiply the frequency and the midpoint together. You get 5. Once you've got all these numbers here, once you've multiplied across, you can now add your frequency midpoint column up, and that's 525, and you add your frequency column up. Once you've done that, you can divide these two together. So it's 26.25 would be the answer. Question B says explain why answer A is only an estimate of the mean. So basically, because the data is grouped, so we don't know the exact time. So this just means that 8 people could easily be 10 minutes. We don't know because it just fits inside that group. So it's just an estimation as how you would work it out. So for question 18, it says Barry sold his car for $10,225. The car had depreciated by 18.2% since Barry bought it originally. How much did Barry pay for the car originally? So depreciation means it's gone down. So this time on this particular one, we're doing 100%, take away 18.2% because it's depreciated, and now we have 81.8%. So we take this 81.8% and we know that it's going to be equal to £10,225. We want to find how much it cost originally. So we want to find out what 1% is. We divide that with 81.8, and then when we get our answer, we multiply it by 100 to get 100%. So this is what it cost originally. You can see £12,500. Question 19 is algebraic fractions, and it's just solving for algebraic fractions. So the first thing I would do would be like to kind of rewrite these things here. So like instead of 1/3 2x minus 5, I'll multiply the 2x minus 5 with the top part of the fraction. So 2x minus 5 times 1 would be just 2x minus 5, and 3x plus 1 times 3 would be written like this. Next, I would get a common denominator. So you can see like we've got 3, 4 and 6. The common denominator would be 12. So you can see that if we've got 12 in the first fraction, we've times that by 4. So we times the top one by 4, which we have there. This one changed from 4 to 12. We multiply by 3. So we multiply by 3 on the top part of the fraction. So 3 times 3 is 9. And this one in the last fraction there, we multiply by 2 to get 12. So we multiply the top with 2 as well. So the 5 times 2. When we've got all these fractions the same across the whole equation, then we can cancel down these fractions or these denominators and just use the top part of the fraction. So we take the top part of the fraction and we lay it down here on this step here. Expand the brackets. So when we expand the brackets, we should get 8x and take away 20 plus 27x plus 9 equals 10. Simplify, so 8x plus 27x is 35x, and minus 20 add 9 is minus 11. And then it's just solving a fraction here. So minus 11 comes across and it becomes plus 11, and it's 10 add 11. 21 divided by 35, and then we can cancel that down. So the answer is 3/5. Question 20 is just product of prime factors, and it's in index notation. Now you can do this many ways, but I'm going to use the ladder here so we can see we get their prime numbers. When prime factors are mentioned, we use our prime numbers. So the first prime number that can be divided into 4,725 is 3, and we keep doing that until it can't be divided by 3 anymore. Move up to the next prime number, which is 5. Keep dividing by 5 until we can't divide anymore with 5, and then we move to the next prime number, which is 7, and 7 divided by 7 until we reach 1. On the left hand side is your prime factors, so we can lay this out like this. So there's three lots of 3, so 3 times 3 times 3, 2 lots of 5, 5 times 5, and 1 lot of 7, which is 7. Changing that into index notation is the 3 times 3 times 3 is 3 cubed, 5 times 5 would turn 5 squared. So for question 21, it says factorise. So first of all, we get product and sum. You can see that we take the minus 35 and we find out what multiplies together to make 35. So it's 1 times 35 and 5 times 7. If there's a minus at the top here, then we know that the signs are going to be different. So we can see that one of 5 and 7 is the most likely, and you can see that one of these numbers has to have a minus in it. So 7 take away 5 would give you plus 2. So we just use those numbers, and it would be x minus 5, x plus 7, which should be factorized to that. Just remember, factorize just means to put into brackets, okay, or take factors out. So question B, it says hence or otherwise solve the equation. So we started off with this and we just rearranged it. You can see it's exactly like question 21A. And so all we do is factorize that, and we already know what the factorization is. It's x minus 5 and x plus 7, and that should equal 0. Take each bracket down. So x take away 5 equals 0, and we solve for that. So 0 plus 5 is 5. X plus 7 equals 0, so 0 take away 7 is minus 7. So you should have two solutions of minus 7 or 5. Okay, question 22, it says find the equation of the line. So equation of the line has to be y equals mx plus c, where m is the gradient and c is the y-intercept. So first of all, we want to find the gradient m, and we can use those 2 points. So what I do is I would take those 2 points and put them above each other to make it easy. Doesn't matter which way you put it, just make it easy for yourself. It could easily be 6 and 16 on the top and 0 minus 2 at the bottom, but I find this bit easier to do. So you'll see it's rise over run, and what that means is it's the difference in y's, so y1 take away y, and the difference over the difference in x's, x1 take away x. So we go down and we take the y coordinates, so it's minus 2 take away 16. That's what we put at the top here. And then we go down to the x's, 0 take away 6, and we put that at the bottom. So minus 2 take away 16 is minus 18, and 0 take away 6 is minus 6, and when you divide these two together, you should get 3. So the m part of it is 3 in your equation. The next part is you're looking for the y-intercept, so the c part of your equation. You can see if there's a coordinate which says 0 in front of it and minus 2, then the minus 2 here would be the y-intercept, so this would be the c part of it. So what you should have is y equals 3x minus 2. So remember, the m part, the gradient is your 3, and the y-intercept, or where it crosses the y-axis, is minus 2. So question 23, if you see a diagram and it's got a right angle triangle, it's either going to be Pythagoras or trigonometry. This one, it deals with angles, so you know that this one is going to be trigonometry. So the best thing to do is to draw or sketch the right angle triangle. You can see here that the angle here is 35, so I've put 35. The hypotenuse there is 7, and the height we're looking for is, I've labelled it as x. You can see that opposite the angle is what you would class as opposite in trig, and opposite the right angle would be the hypotenuse, and the hypotenuse is the longest side. So when you've got that there, you can write down SOHCAHTOA. When you see the O and the H, you know that this is the one that we're looking at, so it's the sine part of the trig. So you can see that sine theta equals opposite over hypotenuse. And all you do is just chuck everything in, or all the values in. So the angle would be 35, the hypotenuse is 7, and we have x as the opposite. That's the one we have to look for. So we take the 7 and move it across to the other side. It's a division to start off with, and we change it to a multiplication. Or you can look at it as, to get rid of the 7, you multiply 7 to both sides. Each cancel out on the right hand side, and we have 7 sine 35 equals x. Which is basically, if you key that into a calculator, we have 4.015. So it means the height of the triangle is 4.015. Now, because it's above the ground and it's 85 centimeters above the ground, you have to include the 85 centimeters. So it says, remember, adding 85. So 4.015 plus 85 is 4.865, and that is your answer. Question 24 is a cylinder question. So a cylindrical can of beans has a radius of 3.4 centimeters and a height of 12 centimeters. The entire curved surface area is covered by a label. The label has a 1 centimeter overlap to allow for sticking. Calculate the area of the label. So first things first, I would sketch a diagram. You can see that the rectangle here would be the normal curved surface area, but we have to add 1 centimeter to this because there is an overlap. So you can see, just remember to add 1 centimeter to the length of the rectangle there. So what I've done here is I've worked out what the length would be of this rectangle. So 2 pi r, and then you add 1. Once I've keyed in all of these numbers, 2 times pi times 3.4, because the radius is 3.4, plus 1, this is what I get. So it's 22.3628. Next step is I get the area of the rectangle. So I've got this number for the length, and we just multiply by 12 to get the area of the rectangle there. And we should get 268.35, and that is your answer to that question. Okay, 25 is a box plot question. So the following information is available in relating to the data set on H. So the way you would look at it is you have minimum, lower quartile, median, upper quartile, and maximum. In between this box here would be the interquartile range, and from between maximum and minimum would be the actual range of this. So when it tells you the median age is 14, you would draw a line down at 14. The maximum age is 35, you would draw a line down at 35. The range of ages is 32, so you know that you can find the lower quartile. You could just do 35 take away 32, which would give you 3, so that would be here. The lower quartile is 12, you would draw a line here. The interquartile range is 8, so that means if you know it's 12, then you just add 8 to get the upper quartile. And then you would just draw your lines and connect them all up into a box and whisker diagram or box plot. Jane states the majority of people in this data set are aged below 16. Is she correct? Give a reason for your answer. Now what I've got is yes, because 50% are below 14, so more than 50% are below 16, which is the majority. So you've got 25%, 25%, 25% and 25%. These are all 25% of data. So when you get to the median there, that's 50% of the data already. And that's 50% there would be up to 14. So all this 50% is below 14. So the question is asking, Jane states the majority of people in this data set are aged. Below 16 it is, because 16 would be just above the 50% there, so that is the majority of people.